The 90s were rife with various entertainment pleasantries. Slap bracelets, the Sega Genesis video games, Disney movies in their renaissance, and of course, anime. Ah yes, Japanese anime really boomed in the 90s. Oh sure, some may have had their start in the 80s, but the 90s is where they shined the most. Of course, with Sonic being a Japanese creation, it was only a matter of time before he got his own cartoon. I'm not talking about the ABC morning cartoon dubbed Sad AM by the fans, or the Adventure Show. Nope, both of those were strictly American concoctions. However, Sonic eventually gained his anime fame straight from the land of the rising sun. I'm talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog OVA movie. Join me while I review such an anime film. I'm the optimistic Sonic fan, and I like the Sonic OVA movie. That was released in Japan on January 26th and March 22nd, 1996, respectively. Produced by Pero Studios in Japan and directed by Kazutaka Ikegami, it held up well in Japan. 3 years later, on September 7th, 1999, ADV Films dubbed and released it in English. That's kind of where it sparked some negative backlash, such as Tails' voice sound like he has a cold, and of course, at the time, he was doing Sonic Underground. But that's another show. In the meantime, let's get down to business with this movie. We open with a dark scene with flashing lights and computer monitors. Then we get an instant look at Metal Sonic, the main antagonist in the second half. Already, I'm drawn to it. Very dark, sinister. No idea what kind of movie this will be.
Awaken. Kill him.
We then cut to bright colors and an island. Here we meet our main two. The mystery of what kind of movie we are looking at here. Could it be dark and scary? Or would it be a fun comedy? Or are we looking at an action? Or a good blended version of all types? Sonic relaxes on the beach while Tails plays. I really like how Tails, despite his best efforts, he still calls Sonic for help. After a heroic rescue, the old man tells Sonic and Tails that the president needs them.
You know, it might have been easier if you just called to tell us that.
And yeah, that was embarrassing. The scene ends with the old man stating the generator used to power his city is running to its max, and it could destroy the city and eventually the whole world. He asks Sonic to help.
Don't tell me why I should trust Robotnik when 99 out of 100 times he's lying.
But what if this is that one other time?
Oh?
I like how Tails interprets that even if Robotnik traps that give the nostalgic vibe of the original games. Albeit the original game was only 5 years old at the time, it didn't lose its magic. We still get to see the three of them together. Sure, their personalities have evolved with the times, but the image of blue, yellow, and red still have a strong place in our hearts. Despite the scene being very short, it was a moment to remember. Time to move on. Without hesitation, Knuckles joins in on the adventure. And that is the end of part 1. I can say it was indeed action-packed with an easy-to-follow story flow. Nothing rushed, and nothing dragged on. Not the action sequences, and not the common dialogue sequences. It was straightforward and entertaining. In Japan, they had to wait 2 more months for the second episode to air. Without further ado, Here's part 2. We open where we basically left off. The triple threat are staring down a chasm leading to the heart of Robotropolis. Upon entering, they are once again attacked by badniks. However, Knuckles decides to fight them off himself, leaving Sonic and Tails to focus on the objective. That's one thing I like about the three of them. The teamwork they put into each other without one trying to hog the glory. After a brief tense moment, our heroes finally turn off the generator at the last second. But that's not the end. We see Sonic getting electrocuted for a minute. I like the look on Tails' face here. He can see that Sonic is not in danger. Thus, it looks like the wheels in his head are turning. That's why I like to call that look. Suddenly, everything falls apart in a surreal fashion and the background disintegrates, leading up to a bright flash. This is the entrance everyone was waiting for, Metal Sonic. Once he shows up, everything seems to be still. Our heroes are aghast at the sight they see before their eyes. Metal Sonic does no talking, but words weren't needed for this situation. Just then, we get to see Metal Robotnik show up one more time. However, in a quick change of pace from a dramatic intro to comedy, the robot falls apart and coming out of Robotnik and Sarah. We get a few laughs in this scene, eventually ending with a full explanation as to the whole situation. Robotnik was disguised as Metal Robotnik to trick Sonic into going to the Land of Darkness so that he can zap Sonic for his creation, Metal Sonic. That's right. Sonic's data was being inputted in Metal Sonic. The scene and explanation were brief, but straight to the point and not confusing at all. Everything tied together without any plot holes. It may have disrupted the pace of the scene, but it was necessary to know what was going on. Without it dragging on, we finally get to the part where Sonic and Metal Sonic have their first fight.
Everybody stand back! Nobody try to help me! I have to destroy this imposter!
In a typical action movie manner, Sonic is defeated mainly because he still needed to learn about his foe. Meanwhile, Tails and Knuckles put the pieces together and decide to return home. There was more important work to be done before trying to pursue Metal Sonic and finding Sonic. Meanwhile, back at home, we are quickly reminded of the old man house sit-in, when he is suddenly confronted by Metal Sonic, without realizing who he is. We get a great view of Metal's point of view, not knowing exactly what's happening. It fades away before we get a chance to know what happened. I love suspense like that. Then we briefly see that Sonic is okay and knows what he needs to do. Then we get another brief image of the president. Then we quickly see Tails and Knuckles arrive home. Here, we think the old man is gone, but to our surprise, he's okay, and he mentions that Sonic was there. Obviously, we know it was Metal Sonic, and made the old man wear his favorite clothes. I like how this scene sparks confusion, but it's the kind of confusion that makes you scratch your head and must think deeply about what's going on and why. Is there something deeper going on? Will this be revealed later and become part of the plot? We'll get the answer soon. Tails fiddles around with the wristwatch given to earlier, as Tails explains how Sonic and Metal Sonic share the same personalities. Meanwhile, the president notices Sonic on the monitors during the destruction that he calls up Sonic's house. There, Tails and Knuckles explain about Metal Sonic, and Knuckles even mentions there is one place on the planet that can cause destruction. It took me a while to understand why they didn't want to tell Sonic, because whatever Sonic knows, Metal Sonic knows. And now, this is where the action of the second episode begins. Meanwhile, Robotnik is still with Sarah. He gives her a wedding dress and mentions that he plans to marry her once the world is over. Obviously, she isn't keen on that. Doesn't matter, they're all headed to the North Pole. Metal Sonic arrives first and begins his devastation. I really love the glowing effects of the fire and magma here. For a 90s anime, it sure held up well. Eventually, Sonic arrives and the two face off. They make subtle hints that they are telepathically linked to each other. After an intense anime-style fight, Robotnik and Sarah appear, and after Sonic takes a hit to the nuts, Sarah falls, but Knuckles saves her, and Tails saves Sonic. Robotnik launches a missile and downs him. I like this part because it's during a high-paced action sequence where you get a slight bit of humor mixed in there. Even seeing a villain's humorous reaction can be entertaining. We then finally see the most iconic scene in the movie.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, back to the movie. Sonic and Metal Sonic are fighting, and Metal keeps getting the upper hand. Metal versus Skin is a no-win. Luckily, Tails uses his wristwatch to corrupt Metal Sonic and knocks him out. Just then, a rocket appears, and inside are the President and the Old Man. Sonic and Tails fly out to save them, but Metal returns. Since Sonic is too busy fighting Metal, Knuckles decides to step in and stop the magma flow. But at what cost? Now that the flow of magma has stopped, we go back to the fight between Sonic and Metal. Just like last time, Tails tried to corrupt Metal, but that didn't work. The fight continues, and this leads to one of my favorite sequences. Look closely, Sonic did step on Knuckles' head. I didn't catch that at first. After more fighting, the President's rocket explodes. Lo and behold, it was Metal who saved them in a climactic ending. Sonic tries to save Metal, but he refuses his help. Kind of a sad scene. The first character we saw was Metal Sonic, entering the final stages of his completion, and collect his data to complete Metal. So, in a way, the whole movie was the birth and death of Metal Sonic, a beloved character by the fanbase. I like to go deeper into detail about Metal Sonic's character, but I'll save him for his own episode. Now with all that being said, we see our group of heroes one last time, knowing they saved the world. However, Robotnik shows up and says he still has Sonic's data. But what's this? Isn't that the missile from earlier? Well, that ending was certainly a blast. All that's left is Knuckles getting his revenge and a final run. And there you have it. The first true Sonic movie, released in Japan in 1996 and dubbed and released in English in 1999. I can't think of anything wrong with it. Wait, who turned out the lights? Okay, so I can't like everything. I'll explain what I didn't like. Besides Tails' voice, which at times was hard to listen to, I didn't like Sonic's behavior about the old man in the beginning. The real Sonic we know would go out of his way to help those in need, not annoyingly ignore them. The idea of Robotnik marrying Sarah was a bit creepy to think about, and I kind of found it hard to believe that despite their battles, Sonic was willing to save Metal at the end. That's all I have to say. Now leave me alone! Overall, I must say that this movie still has a place in my heart. Is it different from the rest of the mainstream? Yes. But then again, Sonic has never been consistent in any of his media franchises. I guess that's what makes him unique and how he can diversify his settings. And this movie is a prime example of that. I'd say, even after many years, the Sonic OVA movie still holds up and is a fan favorite among all of us. I'm the optimistic Sonic fan, and I'll see you next time.